Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and completely reframe how you look at money. For most of our lives, we've been taught to view finance as this cold, stressful math problem, a really rigid world of spreadsheets and complex formulas. But today, we're shifting gears. We're moving it from a math problem to a fascinating psychological journey. Because the truth is, your bank account is driven far, far more by your human emotions than by your calculator.
We're going to start by tackling this massive paradox right here, because honestly, it's the ultimate proof that money isn't just about raw intelligence. I mean, think about it. How can highly educated, brilliant people end up losing absolutely everything, while someone working a minimum wage job can quietly leave behind an empire? Well, the answer lies in the invisible and often totally irrational ways our minds handle wealth.
So, Section 1. Money is not just math. It's really a game of emotion. We almost always assume money is just a rigid spreadsheet, right? Like, if we give two people the exact same data, they're going to make the exact same logical decision. But human beings are not machines. Let's look at the illusion of what we call crazy financial decisions. Imagine two people. Someone who survived the crushing poverty and fear of the 1930s Great Depression is going to view risk completely differently than a young adult coming of age during the massive 1970s stock boom. To the Depression survivor, the stock market looks like a literal death trap. But to the 70s youth, it looks like a gold mine. And the crazy part here? Neither of them is actually crazy. They're just making completely rational decisions based on the mental scars and triumphs of their own lived experiences.
And this exact emotional logic perfectly explains something that constantly baffles financial experts: why the poorest individuals consistently buy lottery tickets. Now, to an expert, it's terrible math, right? You're buying a ticket with a 1 in a billion chance. But those individuals, they aren't trying to do math. They feel trapped in a system where a better life feels totally out of reach. So when they buy that ticket, they aren't buying statistical odds. They're buying a fleeting dream of a better life. They're literally buying hope.
Which brings us to Section 2. Luck, risk, and time. The invisible forces of success.
We all love to worship hard work, but we kind of conveniently ignore the silent, massive role of luck in the background. Take a look at this staggeringly low number. This represents the odds of a teenager having access to a computer back in 1968. Now, Bill Gates is undeniably a genius, and he worked incredibly hard. But we have to acknowledge that he also experienced a 1 in 300 million stroke of luck by attending Lakeside School, which was one of the only schools in the entire world with a computer at that time. His success was this perfect marriage of extreme talent and extreme, totally unrepeatable luck.
But then, you really have to consider the dark mirror to Bill Gates' story. His equally brilliant friend, Kent Evans, who Gates himself said was perhaps even smarter than him, fell victim to a 1 in a million fatal mountain climbing risk before he even graduated. It's tragic, but it proves that luck and risk are literally unavoidable twins. You just can't blindly copy a successful person's habits and expect the exact same outcome, because, well, you can never copy their exact luck.
So if you want to understand how to actually harness time, let's think about a penny doubling every single day. The crucial point here is surviving what's called the valley of disappointment, those first 20 days where the compounding looks entirely invisible. I mean, by day 10, you only have $5. Most people just quit right here. They think the system is broken, it's not working. But if you just hold on, it violently explodes into millions by day 30. Compounding is heavily backloaded.
Time is absolutely your greatest asset. People always talk about Warren Buffett's genius in picking stocks, but they totally miss the real magic trick. He started investing when he was 10 years old. In fact, Warren Buffett accumulated the vast majority of his wealth only after his 65th birthday, simply by staying in the game and letting that compounding do its invisible work over decades.
Moving on to Section 3, the wealth you cannot see, what's hidden under the surface. Let's break down what is arguably the ultimate ego trap. We have been completely brainwashed by society about what wealth actually looks like. Consider Ronald Read. He was a humble gas station attendant and janitor who quietly invested, lived below his means, and died with an astonishing $8 million. On the flip side is Richard Fuscone, a Harvard-educated, mega-successful financial executive who lived in an 11-bedroom mansion, took on massive debt to sustain his image, and ultimately went completely bankrupt.
So why on earth did the executive fail where the janitor succeeded? Because getting wealthy requires taking massive risks, stepping out of the crowd, and being wildly optimistic. But staying wealthy? That requires the exact opposite. It requires a healthy dose of fear, deep humility, and just a relentless focus on survival.
The executive kept acting like a hotshot risk-taker when he really should have been in survival mode.
So we have to stop and ask ourselves, why do we actually buy expensive things? Think about it deeply for a second. Are you buying that luxury item for yourself because it genuinely brings you joy? Or are you desperately trying to buy the respect and admiration of complete strangers?
And this leads right into the ultimate tragedy of flashy spending, the man in the car paradox. When a roaring Ferrari blows past you on the street, you never look at the driver and think, wow, that person is so cool. No, you only imagine yourself in that driver's seat. You project your own desire for admiration right onto the car, which makes the actual driver completely invisible. Think about that. The driver spent $500,000 to be admired, and literally no one is even looking at them.
Well, if luxury cars don't buy respect, what actually does? Take IKEA founder Ingvar Kamprad. He was a multi-billionaire who famously drove a 15-year-old Volvo, flew economy, and ate lunch with his employees. It proves that genuine respect is earned through character, humility, and empathy, not spending. You simply cannot purchase respect at a luxury dealership, no matter how hard they try to upsell you.
All right, Section 4. Play your own financial game. You've got to define your own rules. You absolutely must stop comparing your financial journey to people who have entirely different goals. Social comparison is the thief of wealth because it forces you to play by rules that weren't designed for you at all. A young corporate lawyer buying a Porsche, they might actually be strategically building firm credibility to attract high-paying clients. For them, it's a business move. But if you're a freelancer working from your home office, copying that extravagant lifestyle will absolutely ruin you. Financial advice is highly contextual. Tune out the noise that doesn't fit your specific game.
And when you define your own game, you also totally redefine failure. Michael Jordan missed over 9,000 shots in his career. He lost hundreds of games, yet he is considered the undisputed legend of basketball. This proves the tails you win concept. In business, in investing, and honestly in life, you can be wrong half the time and still make an absolute fortune. A few massive successes will easily overshadow thousands of small failures. You just have to stay in the game.
But as you stay in that game, beware the tragic trap of never enough. Look at Rajat Gupta. He was a brilliant, wildly successful executive worth $100 million. He had everything, but he sat on boards with billionaires, and suddenly his $100 million felt tiny. To chase the billionaire status of his peers, he committed insider trading, completely destroyed his legacy, and went to federal prison. If you don't clearly define what enough is for you, that greed is going to consume you.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, the true value of freedom. Controlling your time.
We really have to slow down here and ask the single most important question of this entire explainer. What is the ultimate purpose of all this money we are working so incredibly hard to accumulate? Look at findings from psychological studies of people at the very end of their lives. Researchers like Angus Campbell and Carl Pillemer reveal that absolutely no one, nobody, regrets missing out on a nicer house, a bigger car, or logging more hours at the office. They regret letting time slip through their fingers. They regret working so hard to impress others that they missed their own lives.
So here is the absolute core takeaway. The true power of savings isn't about buying shiny objects to show off. Money's greatest dividend is simply controlling your time. It's buying a 6-month emergency fund so you can look a toxic boss right in the eye and walk away with your dignity intact. True wealth is waking up every single morning and enthusiastically saying, I can do whatever I want today.
I want to leave you with this final question to carry with you today. Are you building a wealthy life or just a rich-looking one? Stop spending money just to show people how much money you have, and start using it to buy back your freedom. Because a rich-looking life might turn a few heads on the street, but a truly wealthy life will actually give you the peace of mind to sleep soundly at night. Keep your wealth invisible, let it compound, and buy back your time.